She's really starting to take shape now. Time for another Daemon Prince Conversion update. Saved by Slaanesh. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another week of Saved by Slaanesh and another week of converting the Daemon Princess. I made some great progress, I've got some new ideas and I'm going to share them in this video. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so we left off last week's video talking about the arms and what to do about them. Now, most of you said that 4 arms was just way too many, very top heavy, and I 100% have to agree. In actual fact, my personal favourite was just 2 arms. But I know a lot of you were saying that Slaanesh generally would probably have more than 2 arms, so the general consensus was 3 arms. Now, I was liking the idea that I had at the end of last week's video, where basically I had the big claw on this side, and then on the other side have the big claw and maybe a sword or an axe. And the sword or axe would probably have to be at the top joint and the big claw underneath, just because it would be easier for them to use the sword. So I thought this would be the way that I was going to go. I had a slight issue though, in that when I took the axe or sword off to make the model maybe a bit more WYSIWYG, it meant that the 2 big claws weren't in the right area. And I didn't really have another top arm to put in. I was thinking maybe I could put a tentacle as the top arm or something. However, I wasn't 100% sure, so I decided, for the first time, to go and have a look at the rulebook for the Daemon Prince. Now, I'm not sure why I haven't previously looked at the rulebook, probably because this army that I'm making isn't necessarily about the rules. It's about the look and feel and the vision of my army. However, I do need to make my models as WYSIWYG as possible. So I got the book out and I worked out that actually the Daemon Prince model that is supplied by Games Workshop isn't WYSIWYG at all. The model is supposed to have a set of claws, and then it's supposed to have a sword, and then you can exchange the sword for either an axe or you can exchange the sword for another set of claws. So if you go for the claw option, you're actually supposed to have 4 claws on the model, and you don't get those 2 sets of claws in the box. It also meant that my model, regardless of all the options that we discussed, wouldn't actually be WYSIWYG. Not really a problem because the Games Workshop model isn't WYSIWYG. However, I would like it to be what you see is what you get. I want the model to actually have the weapon options that I am playing. So after discovering this, I had another good think about what to do with this model. I think now I've got a perfect solution. I think it's going to satisfy my look of the model that I want, i.e. mainly 2 arms. But I think it's also going to satisfy you guys that thought you should have more than 2 arms. It's also going to make it WYSIWYG. Now, that's enough talking. Let's go and have a look at the work that I've done. And as always, I am going to be looking for some more feedback from you. So if you could stay tuned and leave some comments, that would be fantastic. Okay, so to the princess. Right, I've now glued on the tabard and the side sections, and I've done a little bit more green stuff work around that area. So let's just zoom in and I can show you that. So yeah, the tabard is glued on, and then the side sections are as well, and as you can see I have now green stuffed in those holes at the bottom. I think the general consensus was that the model wasn't tall enough to warrant those extra tentacles or arms and stuff down the bottom there. It just wasn't working, so I've green stuffed them in, and that's how they're looking. Just spin it around. I've also worked on this section here. This is the join between the body of the Daemon Prince and the Ravener. Just filled in the gaps and just made that nice and smooth. And then that's the other side there. So once that was done, I then decided to have a look at the arms. Okay, so the first thing with the arms was to do the actual shoulder joint itself. The Daemon Prince arms have this sort of fixed design where they just push in one position. I wanted mine to be a little bit more versatile and fit the arms that I plan to put in there. So I reshaped them and also glued in a little magnet, as you can see. So that's that side and that's that side there. Once that was done and dried, I then magnetised on the claws. Okay, so on the claw, all I did was cut a flat area off the top of the claw there, and then I glued a 5x1mm magnet onto that. Once it was dried, we then now have one claw there, and one claw there. So we have a set of claws. Really, really liking this. Now this is my favourite sort of pose. I just like the two arms, to be fair. But like I said, I also wanted this to be WYSIWYG. Now it meant that I needed to get another set of claws onto the model. Now I'm going to come to that in a second, but first of all I just want to show you the other weapon options. So I've also done on this side here the axe, and on this side here I've done the arm, like so. Now both of the axe and the arms, I actually went in and I cut off the top section, because if you have a look at, say for example, the sword, it's got this massive beefy top section, so I cut that off and I re-glued on the top section of one of these Tyranid arms, and that just thins out the arm and I think just matches the model really, really nicely. So that gives me those options, again lacking the claws. So my idea is this, and this is what I want to run through with you and hopefully get some feedback from you guys. So let's just take these off for a second and then I want to have a chat. Okay, so I've got all the weapon options here now. That's fantastic. What I'm lacking is a set of claws. So what my thought was, how about I put a set of claws as the second arm on this model, so underneath this big arm, just here, but just have some little like baby claws, almost like a Tyrannosaurus. And I think what it would do, it will make it WYSIWYG and also won't interfere too much with the other weapon options. Now I had a look in my bits box and I've got two options for this particular section, and this is where I'd love to get your feedback. So this is option one, this is Genestealer Rending Claws. And it now means that I can put on my two big claws and the model is now totally WYSIWYG. Two sets of claws. I'm really, really liking it. It also means that I can take these off and I can put on my axe and I can put on this arm, and again now I've got the axe option with a set of claws, and I can change the axe for a sword with a set of claws. So that's option one. Now option two is basically the same, but with a different set of claws. Okay, so option two, these are the Spellcrow claws. Now these of course are from the Noise Marine, so they've got sort of marine arms on there. So I thought if I used these, what I would do is get myself some smaller Tyranid arms, possibly even these ones, cut off that claw and put the claw onto the end of that arm, and that could then go into there. So let's just put some claws on so you can see how it looks and make up your mind. As I said, I am really looking for some feedback here. Which option, option one or option two, do you think is the best? So that is option two. So what do you think? This is where I need your votes. Option one, the Tyranid Rending Claws. Option two, the Spellcrow Crab Claws. Which one do you think is better? Okay, I've got one more thing that I need you to vote on, so please stay tuned. Okay, so the last thing I need to look at is the sword, and there's one reason why I haven't done any work on the sword yet. As I said, I'm looking for some feedback. I think I have a little idea which might work well, but I'd really like to get your thoughts on this. So one option is going to be to take this axe off and replace it with a sword. Now of course, the top of the sword is going to have the Tyranid arm on it. And then I'm going to take either, let's move her out the way, these are the swords that I've got in the kit, that one and this one. Now these symbols on this particular sword, just here, I don't think are necessarily anything to do with Slaanesh. Indeed, I have a funny feeling they might even be Tzeentch symbols, but I don't know. So if you know, if you could let me know, that would be fantastic. I could potentially fill these in with some green stuff maybe if I like this sword better, but that is option one for the sword. Option two is this sword here. Now I think this sword here is probably quite cornate, I think maybe, but one of my ideas is if I was going to use this sword, potentially what I could do is cut off these two pieces here, this one at the top, one at the bottom, and then just make that into a bit more of a sort of a traditional sword maybe. So I'm thinking that could be an option. Cut those two off, I use this sword, cut this off, put the Tyranid piece on the top, and then job done. However, the other options are actually use a Tyranid sword. So we've got this one here, or we have the Bone Saber sword. And what I could potentially do is keep the helm of this one, so cut the sword off at the bottom there, and then replace it with a Tyranid one, or possibly replace it with that Tyranid one. Not 100% sure, but I'm thinking personal favourite at the moment is this one, but with those two front sections cut off. Let me know what you think, and I really look forward to reading your comments. Beam me up!